Welcome to Tune In and Find the Others. This is Tone and Garen, and we are meeting Alex Beecroft today. Alex, how are you
Hi,
doing?
I'm pretty swell. Had a nice sunny day at a farmer's market, which is a good way to start the day.
Nice, nice. So, if those of you that don't know, me and Alex have been cultivating community in Grand Rapids for 6 years now.
hmm
Um, there's a network that we've helped bring people together at called Grand Rapids Autonomous Support System. And Alex brought in a lot of the uh, consensus decision making and a lot of the things that he's learned from Occupy and different farms that he's been at. Um, so yeah, it's really cool to have you on, and a pleasure to be speaking with you.
It's a really mutual pleasure, and I'm really excited. I've been watching this podcast grow, and I remember even before this iteration when it was back at Parkwood and it was starting, and yeah, I'm just really happy to finally be on the other side of the mic and camera and headphones and having a chat about all this. There's a lot to talk
Mm-hmm.
about.
Mm-hmm. So I guess what is the biggest thing that you've learned from grass?
Mm,
And what would you say, I guess like for those that don't know what grass is, how would you describe grass and
mhm,
what is what is it, the like the ethos and
mhm,
the energy with it?
mhm. Um, so grass is kind of in its growing inhabited a lot of spaces that are somewhat ambiguous at the time it's happening. But for me, what grass is and what it represented to me as we were starting to really pour our energy into this thing, um, is just a an approach to the instability of our society through community, through the idea that in front of us is a lot of really threatening, amorphous, but nonetheless like almost like insidious like threat of the future in a way. Like the planet is going through all of its changes, and we're degrading so many ecosystems. Like our political climate is horrifically polarized, with like people going deeper and deeper into the mindset that like people that think differently want to kill me and I need to like defend myself against them, or that they just want to lay lace to everything. Our food, like our food itself, is like less nutritious than it was 50 years ago. The soils are being depleted, the oceans are warming. Like the rise of right wing and fascist style like political leaders has like just only become more and more prevalent throughout the entire globe. So there's something to be said for, if you can't stop a train, you just got to at least teach the people that are on the train like how to tuck and roll off this thing, or like just
Mm,
do something for yourselves. And to me, that grass represents like, all right, global awareness. Like we need to stay tapped into what's still going on, but like we're going to really focus on our very local, very person to person connections. And we're going to take the isolation of modernity and we're going to start breaking that down, and we're going to start talking about things that aren't your normal fair conversation. I know at a lot of grass meetings, people just open up their hearts and like they talk about hard things that you don't hear about every day from just people who you're meeting for the first time, or only seeing once a week. And I think for me, grass is addressing instability through like just cultivating personal connections that can trust each other and see each other enough to have an awareness of each other's needs, and from that awareness be motivated to do some kind of a maneuvering in their lives to help each other.
yeah, well said. Yeah. So we just kind of, I think it was the act of many different people inspiring you, inspiring me. Um, Evan Stowers being one of those
Mhm.
people, and just an earnest call um, just throwing up event pages and seeing who comes and holding
Hmm.
the energy of like um, kind of, that the people in the political system are like stagnant
Hmm.
about the changes that in surface level changes, are happening over the
Hmm.
course of years,
Right.
that don't affect the underlying systemic um, problems, like really deep rooted problems.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and uh, yeah, I think grass is one of those things that's replicable in other places because
Hmm.
of the simplicity of it.
Hmm.
There's a level of organizing and I guess like right brain thinking that
Hmm.
goes along with um, trying to organize people together and specifically tackle like things that are happening in the city. But it's also like throwing up an event page and just wording it the way that like from your heart,
Hmm.
like to gather people to join, and then those people coming and you just kind of like talking from a heart level in a
Hmm.
circle.
Hmm.
um, and we have a specific protocol, the way that we do things.
Hmm.
You wanna explain that protocol?
Like your code of conduct kind of stuff.
Sure. Like as in circle. Like, what do we do when we're in circle together?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So when we're in circle together, um, circle is really a time and a place to, I guess, in a way, just have the floor. Like it's very common that we see issues that are happening at large, and we talk about them and we pick them apart and see how each other feels about it. It's a space to collaborate if you want to see something made real, and there's people that are there that resonate with it, want to talk about it, like, or if you think it's an idea like the whole community could take on to do something good for those around us. Whether that's just like a space they can come to have a conversation, or it's something we can go out and offer. Um, and it's and we make decisions. Like so, if you want to get into some of the nuts and bolts, general circle, that circle when we get together is what has decision making power when we do what we do. That's where um, the way we go about our online rules and rules and regulation stuff, the things we take on is like how grass is going to function. It really is like a form of self-governance. Like we all who are sitting down have like the ability to make decisions, and we can decide to do something as a group, like go out and throw an event, or go out and do something in the community, or um, all just share inspiration for committing to a cause that's going around, to educate ourselves on something, to you know and so it's really like a middle ground between a lot of different things that you would normally see in other forms of just like societal structure or like governance. And because of that, it is like there's this underlying idea that like the intention you do something with will infuse it into every action. So by having circle be all of those things, um, yes, we lose the edge of like hard definition and efficiency sometimes, but nonetheless, we can be really sure that everything we do, there's a sincerity in it, and there's a genuineness of all the hearts who are involved with that decision and who that decision is eventually going to affect, as we're all members of the same community. Um, I feel like that was a bit of an ambiguous answer, but that's what I got in this moment.
No, it's good. It's interesting because I feel like some of us have had this experience at like festivals, or they've had this experience at like workshops, or like
Hmm.
you're sitting around in a circle and like you're all like sharing and like giving, and it's all this like kind of co-creative space,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
people love that. I love that. I love being in
Yeah.
those kind of spaces where it's like an art circle and everybody's doing art
Right.
together. And this is just uh, it's a network that you can tap into it, whatever is your passion. Try to find other
Mm-hmm.
people that are into that passion. We have,
Mm-hmm.
we have greater goals, but the essence of it is a makerspace. It's
Mm-hmm.
come together as you are, and let's figure out how to create a creative solution to
Mm-hmm.
something that's going on in the city, or somebody is struggling right now. How can we help them? How can we band
Mm-hmm.
together as humans, as neighbors, as friends, and put forth our energy and our efforts and our talents and skills, and just throw it all in one pot and see what kind of soup we can make.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's I like one of the things I heard in what you were sharing that stands out to me as a notable, like you're talking about overarching goals as well. It's one of the deeper philosophical points I feel like, but one of the things that I feel like grass stands to like really try and pursue is the decommodification of just human life. Because if you really think about it, like so much of what you do on a day-to-day basis with your friends involves money, involves like a
Mm-hmm.
marketplace of some kind, if not like also like a marketplace of culture. And so like when we do what we do, like most of our stuff, for those that don't know, is based in gift culture. Like we have we very, very rarely, if ever, put like a set cost on something. Like it is always like suggested donation, like free access to all, like just trusting that, hey, we did a thing like this. We put some effort into this. If you have the ability to show some financial support for it, sweet. And like we've always run in the black, and it's been at because money wasn't the point. And like by making that separation and by distincting that this is something we do because we just care about each other or want to do it, like there's this it's like the white noise of the experience of reality is that money is related to all of it, but when you can really begin to create spaces where it's taken more and more out of it, I think the genuineness that's just behind life gets a little more room to be in the room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't feel like you're in debt to somebody. You don't feel
Mm-hmm.
like, that debt based culture is just kind of like, and we have that within us, right? Like we have
Mm-hmm.
these mentalities. Like I'm in a place right now currently where a friend is housing me currently for free, and I intend to pay her back. But there's like there's this element of like gift culture with it, where like I'm helping her make a logo for her poetry and art
Mm-hmm.
event that she's creating here in the city. And like um, there's so many ways in which we can have a gift relationship, where um, we can find levels of exchange that are balanced, and we feel that both parties feel good, that both parties feel like we're just sharing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
did this for you, so you have to do this for me kind of thing. It's more of a, here we are together, and I got you today, and I trust that, you know, that is going to be returned in some way, and it may not be in the way that I just gave it to you, you know?
Yeah. And in some models of gift culture, or even by that very same person, there's the philosophy that you give because someone else has given to you, and eventually someone will give to you again. And
Mm-hmm.
so it doesn't the receiver of what you give is a little more irrelevant at that point, because it is like the shared ethos of reciprocity that is
Mm-hmm.
like what sustains the well-being of all those in the system. And it's one of those things that I feel like it lights me up inside, and I really look forward to the day we can achieve something like that. But wow, that I I would be lying if I said I'm not daunted by like we got a ways to go.
Mm-hmm.
Like to really get into, it sounds really beautiful in words and on paper to talk about the kind of culture where that's true, where you just give to whoever needs around you because just ambiguous somebody is gonna give to you when you need it. An abundance mindset in like not like a fighting against what you used to believe kind of way, but like as a genuine just like lifestyle.
Yeah.
That's going to take work. That's going to take time. That's going to take communities that can provide for themselves, because that only works if like everyone in the community is also able to like contribute to like the health of the local like so-called ecosystem. Um,
Hmm.
in the lifestyle so many of us live, being just divorced from our food, divorced from our trades, divorced from just how we fabricate our goods, like just all of it. Um, yeah, it just the resiliency that's needed to sustain that is going to be a work in progress for a while. And
Yeah.
so it's tempting to look at it and think of it as a pipe dream, because it does feel so far from where we are now. But we've done it before. Like, cultures have done it before. Like, humans can do it. We just need to really, really want to enough to like get through the time where it seems so hard to, or it seems like there's so many other people that just don't get it, that trying to do it on our own is just going to leave us out to up creek without a paddle.
I mean, for thousands and thousands of years, tribes operated out of a reciprocity
Hmm.
mindset.
Hmm.
That's how they that's how they lived. That's how they
Yeah.
organized themselves. And it's only been recently in the past 10,000 or so years that we've created these structures of pyramid-esque structures of like one person is at the top telling people what to do, and you have to have this like level of debt-based exchange.
Yeah.
um,
Stratification of
so
classes.
yeah, yeah, and I think that's another element to what grass is trying to do. Like, and all of this is like all of this is the idea for me that makes the most sense with grass is like it's on the ground level. Like
Hmm.
if you can create an alternative on the local level and it works and it fulfills people and it helps people on the basic needs and more,
Hmm.
um like not just like allowing people to live but allowing people to thrive.
Hmm.
And then you can expand that a little bit, say okay, we have a bigger community now. How can we adjust? And if it could just continue to, it doesn't have to be enormous. But what I'm trying to say is like the idea that we can't have a a culture of like a gift culture, decentralized, competent power, um, a governance system that actually speaks to the people and is listens to the people's needs and delivers.
Hmm.
Uh, the idea that it can't be done just because of the way that society is currently set up, um, I don't think is. I think the feeling is valid, but I think in reality it's not valid. I really feel that science is about testing and reassessing and
Hmm.
hypothesis and then putting it into action. Um, and I feel like if you can test things from a small container and see if it works, then you can expand that outwards, and then you can inspire other communities to then test it in their local community,
Hmm.
test, see what works, what doesn't work. I mean, we've been doing this for 6 years. We still have so far to go, like we said.
Hmm.
But the fact that we've created this for 6 years and have built the connections, the community that we have, I think was a one of the ground level or pillar-esque aspects of creating this or engendering this new world to come through.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's one of the things I feel like. I feel like people, at least myself as an activist, I feel like this might happen. I feel like people look at this kind of an endeavor and they look for its effect on the scale of like an NGO almost kind of level. Like they look for the effect at the scale of this entity directly affecting policy or business or things of that nature. And well, it's true that the ambition of the long term growth of this community is there, and that there are times we've like shown up or gotten involved a little bit, but we really don't like. People often overlook the fruit of the actual individual lives of the people involved in the community, like not just political power in its local sphere, but like actual just genuine impact for those who join the community. Like so we've been around for 6 years, and that weekly meeting has happened. I mean, we're definitely still under 20 days in those 6 years that there, or 20 weeks in those 6 years where there hasn't been a meeting. We're probably under 10, but I mean, I haven't I haven't gone back and looked at the calendar, but definitely under 20 in 6 years. It was 6 in October, so I mean, we got a month to go yet, but hey, a little more than. So that's but all the people, even like in those meetings, all those weeks of coming together, it has rotated. People have been in and out of circle. It hasn't always been the same people. It hasn't always been you or me. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there have been times where neither of us have been present. There have been times where one of us is just out of the project for a while for some reason. Like, and there are just all kinds of humans who have come and gone from like positions of leadership within a decentralized body. And because it's decentralized, there's no one to like have an election to fill their shoes. Like it's just, hey, this thing needs done. Like who's going to do it this week? Um, and of those people that have rotated throughout the years, there's so many relationships, and there's so many just formative life moments for people that have come from like either gathering in grass or gathering with the people they've met at grass, or moving in with the people they've met at grass, or having kids with the people they've met at grass. Like there is just the qualitative effect for people, which has no metric you can put on a spreadsheet, is just one that I think is so easily overlooked because you can't put it in your rap sheet. But it is one that I just think is really beautiful. And I see a lot of the connections people have made here having informed how they want to show up in the world in some way. And that, or at least giving them encouragement as they discover that for themselves, and a space and a
Yeah,
room to tinker around with that as they grow and as they live their lives.
that's so true. Like the aspect of it that is under the surface that you can't really quantify.
There's
You
strong
can't
roots in
say
these
like
grass.
like like this person's perspective on their entire life was changed. How do you quantify that? Like how do you like say on paper, hey, this person shifted the perspective of their life like in this way at this time and this specific brain function or
Mm-hmm.
brain
Mm-hmm.
spark. um Regardless, it's so what is the word I'm looking for? It's like subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the realm of really
Almost like.
spirit, if you want to look at it that way.
Mm-hmm.
In There's so many ways that you can say it or speak to it, but I think um, that is I can see that's why some people have felt like it hasn't been. Uh, there's at times they felt it hasn't been doing something, like there
Mm-hmm.
isn't a specific uh, uh, important physical. You can see the change that's happening. That grass is organizing this, and they're fixing this, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think um, a lot of the changes in the coming together, the energy that swirls around and that helps people um, shift is that's what it is. It's just like an internal shift that we're just reflecting with one another, everything that we've learned, and coming to it with as centered energetically, lovingly as possible to help each other, be a support network, be a
Mhm.
support system.
Mhm.
And then from there, people have gone off and done different projects and have started their own businesses and have started their own families,
Mhm.
and you being one of them. And it's just it's amazing how the it's endless what can be created in those spaces. And so I think what what is most like inspiring to me about it is that we've successfully created a generator, like I don't even know how to call it. Like it's like this generative nebula
Mhm.
space for
Mhm.
ideas and creation and collaboration. And if we can find a way to inspire other communities to create these where they are, and there's a lot of them that already exist. It's
Mhm.
not like we're the first ones that have ever
Right. You're
tapped
not the
into
new kids on the
this.
block.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so with that, we're creating a kind of a blueprint, so to speak. We're creating a book,
Mhm.
a grass book to try to um, write down all of the things that we've learned and our
Mhm.
pillars and
Mhm.
our ways of being that have helped us to create this community.
Yeah. I think you're right. And I do think, in terms of propagating the idea, I really like the way Richard Perkins opened up his book on regenerative agriculture, where he just makes the statement like it's a ton of information. Like, this is high quality data processed through a very lucid and creative mind. Great content. Dude opens this book with the statement like, hey, like, I can't actually make you a textbook fully on this subject and like guarantee it's going to be right or be valuable for you. This is what works here. This is what we found. This is like research we did on these topics and why we're doing it here. Here's our theory behind what we're doing. Here's our methodology. It is only that. It is the theory and methodology that works for this farm. It's probably worth a look, but it is yours to, like, be informed on. It's yours to digest, and it's yours to translate into what makes sense for you and where you live.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of those like very subtle decommodification things. We're not trying to standardize and pump out a mass carbon copy of how to do the thing anywhere, at any time. It is
Mm-hmm.
like this was the beneficial bacteria in this little fermentation over here. You can try and inoculate it with some of these ideas, but it's still going to be a unique culture over there. So it's just going to have different things to it, and that's going to be good for it. That's how you get different flavors. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. I think that we're just this is what works for us. This is what has just come through in this specific place in the world. Um, and I think it's not going to be the same if you followed every single exact step that we did. You
Hmm.
know, it's not going
Hmm.
to be the same because um, there's so many different communities and their needs and their uh, where they're at in so many different levels. But I will say that there is an aspect, there are like archetypes or things that are fixed that can be tapped into,
Hmm.
um, that can be useful tools. And I think
Hmm.
um, that's what we're trying to put into this book is, hey, this worked for us, blah blah blah, like this is who we are.
Hmm.
um, and then we circled around these points of um, these ways of addressing conflict, or these ways of uh, talking with our community in circle, going about agendas, going
Hmm.
about making decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the ways in which, like, when I would put event pages up, I mean, there's ways that people can tap into, like, if they are involved in community, they can reach out to each person that they know are of like similar mindset, and it may only be two people or three people or four people, but and that's where grass started. Grass
Mm-hmm.
was only like two people, three people for a long time.
Yeah.
And before it was even called grass. And then when we went into your house, then there was like five people,
Mm-hmm.
and it was around five people for a while, and six, seven, and you know we've had meetings now that have gone up to 40 people, and then had festivals of 500 people. And just like any kind of idea, anything starts small, like even a blade of grass,
Mm-hmm.
like everything in life starts
Mm-hmm.
out from a seed. And we hope that these our grass seeds can help your
Yeah.
community.
Yeah. It's all about the slow cooking.
Yeah. Yep. And
Yeah.
so I asked a question at the beginning of this.
Uh-huh.
Um, Before I asked, I was like, well, maybe we should talk about what grass is first. But what is the thing that you've learned most about being in this type of community?
Um, hmm. When that question comes around, usually one of the first lessons that come to mind are hope that people have the best intentions, but you're still responsible for setting a container, and you're still responsible for like managing toxic behavior when it does like pop up in community. And sometimes there can be an overemphasis on like helping one individual, um, and not, yeah, just so when we started, we had the value of radical inclusion, right? Like it was like everyone come here, like everyone get over here, like come on, let's all do the thing. And sure enough, we had our experiences with the human who just went about their relationships very toxically, was very, just gaslighting the folks and getting into their spaces and just never being violent, but being like emotionally and verbally just like manipulative and hurtful to people. And then just like, we you want everyone to come in good faith, but not everyone will. And you need to have rules in place for that because rules help you navigate the time of conflict in a way that is just balanced and centered. And it's not, if you think about what you want to do about the thing ahead of time, then you can just execute that plan that you all came up with when you were in level heads and no one was in a state of crisis. So that when crisis comes along, you have your game plan to move through it with.
Yeah.
Um, and because I'm a fan of letting it kind of happen on its own. Grass had its values when it started out. It knew it wanted to be decentralized when it started out, and it knew it wanted to use consensus for its decision making process. But outside of that, like we didn't have anything else on the table. We didn't have any kind of a code of conduct. We didn't have any kind of a mediation plan. We didn't have any resource for people to go to if they were experiencing something like that. And we were small, like we really didn't need it until we needed it. Then we needed it
Mm-hmm.
bad and we didn't have it.
Yeah.
Um, and and even now in the wake of that, like we have conflicts so rarely that we like will input time into it, we'll get this burst of energy into it, and now we have a game plan for it. Like we have
Mm-hmm.
policy, we have a guiding document for how we're going to do that within our community. Um, but that's had one Really, actually pretty good. Like we had one run of that of how we wanted to do it, and we tried it out, and it worked really well. Everyone left that conversation feeling more heard and seen, and that was good. But we, that was like last year. Like when everyone loved each other, like it's hard to like wind up in situations where it's needed. But anyway, um, yeah, I think that was a really potent lesson, both just in its own logical side, but then like the emotional other side of that is frankly people got hurt that I think it was preventable emotional harm if there had been those things in place. So you do
Mm-hmm.
what you can, the best you can with what you got at the time, but like it's not lost on me that like I guess if this is a moment to break the fourth wall for anyone that's thinking about doing this kind of thing, like really actively think about that ahead of time because it will keep people from getting hurt that don't need to be hurt because we're disorganized about how we handle interpersonal conflict. You
Mm-hmm.
can you can let the ethos of the group slow cook, but like having code of conduct and like boundaries, just know how you're going to go about those. That's going to be good for folks. That should be done. Um,
Yeah, and it's hard to do when you're trying to create a community that is decentralized, right? And doesn't
yeah,
have a central authority figure that like
right.
tells everybody what to do.
Right. We're not trying to make the
Um,
cop guild. Like that's not. We're not going
right,
for a committee that is enforcing policy and like that vibe. No.
right,
But
right.
yeah.
Yeah, but also I think it's important to note that while there's no authority figures, there are leaders,
Hmm. Hmm.
and uh, I guess it's that may be tough to understand for some people that don't
Hmm.
that haven't experienced that before.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess the way the way it makes sense to me is that um, there are you know hierarchical systems are really good for war. They're really good for business. They're really good for governance.
Hmm.
Um, and decentralized systems or horizontal systems have the way that humans have interacted for thousands and thousands and thousands of years.
Hmm.
Um, but when you have a mixture of the two, if you have a way of decentralizing a a network or a group of people, and you have, there are natural born leaders
Hmm.
that are put that that do the work, that decide for themselves that they want to contribute to this in this way, and they want to and as long as the people support them and they feel that that person is competent in that position, then we encourage people to do that.
Hmm.
And so it's almost like this, like, instead of it being like a top down structure like this, it's more so like this. Would you say that's accurate?
I would say that's accurate. Um, and I would also say I like the just kind of made me think of a blob. Like we're just taking the solid and we're just smoothing it out. But because it
Yeah.
but yeah, I feel like there's a little bit of there's a subtle philosophical or like nuanced where like it's one of those like deconditionings of the mind because it is an environment where people who are extroverted and naturally lead the charge can shine. But I like too. We've tried to really also make it a place where people who are introverted but like very sincerely want to help with the thing have enough structure around them that they feel like they can plug into stepping into facilitation or stepping into like presenting an idea and like mobilizing on a project. Um, yeah, because I think yeah, sorry, yeah, yeah. I think we
I think that's great.
we embolden unconventional. realms of leadership as well, I feel like. Or at
Mm-hmm.
least we seek to. Like we very, very much so. Like anyone that just wants to step into the thing is so welcome to do it. And yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really good too. That's really good to point out is that um, because I mean, I'm someone that used to be a introvert, and I definitely fluctuate at
Mm-hmm.
times, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But through grass, I feel like I've become much more of an extrovert,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I think it's just it's something that empowers people wherever they are to be whoever they are, and that they're given the space to um, be creative and have their creative efforts be recognized and
Mm-hmm.
utilized for a communal effort, you know, for
Mm-hmm.
something that can bolster up the people around them, and they can have this sense of like accomplishment or like empowerment and feel like, man, I like, even though I was in the background, so to speak, like I did a thing, I did a
Mm-hmm.
good thing. And um I think, man, we need more of these spaces and like healthy forms of masculinity and healthy forms
Mm-hmm.
of femininity, and like uh just allowing all things to be expressed and shared, and that it's a
Mm-hmm.
safe space to talk about even the most controversial subjects in our
Mm-hmm.
society.
Yeah. And that's where I think we're gonna see the heat turn up just a little bit in that regards. Just because I'm noticing that this is for both as like grass as a community and just like us as people and like where our generation is at right now and the whole world's at right now. Like the pandemic has really taken things to the next level for what do we do when we sincerely disagree with each other and the thing we disagree about is of the utmost importance to both of us,
Mm.
or at least incredibly like potent and close to home for most all of us. Whether you view it as a saving of lives situation or a sovereignty situation or a propaganda situation or a dissolution situation, like it just there's so many people have gone in so many different ways that have been in close proximity to each other for the last 6 years. And that is one of the ultimate tests of a community is like when there is a strong division over belief um, about something that is of high priority to everybody involved. And like the numbers here in Kent County have gone up again. Like we're looking like we're going back into a season again of high high stakes from the state and high stakes in response to the state. There's mask mandates are going out again. The vaccine is everything that the vaccine conversation is like. Um, and it it'll be interesting for grass because there are so many people who are in so many different places with it all. And it's not something we've talked about in the room a whole lot over the course of pandemic. Um, but with the season looking like what it's going to be for the next, how many months, and really, I think if grass goes through all of this without having some kind of a conversation as a community about it, I think we'll be doing at least some degree of a disservice to the overall thing we're trying to do, which is
Yes.
create a community that can navigate the wide range of the wide range of a spectrum there are behind human beings in a unified way. And so this is one of those moments where I think leaning into it will actually help serve us, even if we don't come out of it necessarily feeling 100% about it all. I think if we can still find a way to be on common ground and good faith and really trust that everyone involved has a care and concern for each other in a deep way, in a way as deep as like the joy of connecting brought us in our first 5-6 years. Like we I don't know, I feel like that's something we need to draw on for like how we get through this. uh, yeah.
I think common ground is the right phrase.
Yeah.
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 Common ground. How do we cultivate common ground with um, wherever you lie in the on the spectrum of the debate,
Hmm. Hmm.
regarding uh, COVID and the new myriad of um, ways in which it sparks all this debate, and it has
Right.
these effects on people's lives and in numerous ways too.
Hmm.
Um, and you said it right. Like it affects, like this is an issue that affects people at the core of their being, whether it's for sovereignty, whether it's for their health,
Hmm.
whether it's for, like all these
Right.
things are like super charged on both sides. And if we can find a way to cultivate a space where we can find a middle ground and we can find common ground with all these different parties, like what can that say about other places in the world? And like, what can that say to like creating peace?
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, in terms of creating peace, like the struggle is not left and right. The struggle is top down. Like it is,
Mm-hmm.
they're, you know, at the end of the day, like, I don't like to bring this topic up a whole lot because I'm not trying to malign the idea of like collectivism or Marxism necessarily, if you really get into what's being talked about in some of those writings. But you look at it, like communism has its history of going strong central government, and that so the left does that. The right definitely like has a like free, like total, no holds bar, everyone gets to do whatever they want. Fun fact, the people who historically had power have kept on to their power through any means necessary, and in whichever way gets them the most power, which also leads to like fascism and authoritarianism. Like both can go
Mm-hmm.
both ways. Like
Yep.
it's not a matter of whether you're going left or right on the spectrum. It's whether or not you're like letting power still be in the hands of those who have wielded it the course of empire, whatever empires look like. And if we can't find the common ground to stand on as those who are definitely on the bottom, uh, it yeah, it's horrible that it's such a patriotic statement, but united we can stand. If we are divided, we will fall. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's a cheeky revolutionary statement that's kind of whatever, but that's a whole history that's bathed in blood and disgrace. But that statement is so profoundly true, so profoundly true.
Yeah. 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 There's so much that we have to learn and that we will learn. Uh, we'll have to just talk through it. Like that's
Yeah.
the thing, is that we can't avoid it anymore. And
Hmm.
that's one of the statuses that I had put out a little bit ago, is like, this is not something that we can avoid.
Hmm.
It's coming, like it's like in all the ways that it's coming, in all the ways the virus is coming, all the ways the lockdowns or the measures from government are coming, all the ways in which all this is happening, and it will affect our lives. And unless we have a way of communicating with each other, uh, a place of comfort that we can talk about these things, and then from that comfort push past our comfort zones
Hmm.
in a way that's guaranteed that we're not going to just like write each other off as not part of our lives anymore. And if that has to be the case, there is there is that too. But I think if we can create a way of communicating with each other about these things that can be a safe way to talk about it, then we know that okay, we're not just going to like go to war with each other, right? We're not just going to throw everything just for like one disagreement.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, it's a tricky thing. It's a
It
tricky
is.
thing to even talk about in this moment.
Yeah. It might be hyperbole, but I'm not so sure it is. I really feel like the things that COVID has generated, particularly the vaccine conversation, is the abortion of our time. Like
Mm,
the rollingly need an issue that they can move the needle for large amounts of people on one way or the other. So you just take it and just make it the most vitriolic thing you can while it's happening, so that our memory from this and our lived experience of this division goes on for the next rest of our generation, and we wind up being just like the boomers, and we wind up being just like everyone else that's just spent the last 30-40 years voting for like people making policies that are pro-war and anti-lower and middle class because they feel the right way about abortion. Like, that it's we can't let it become the same thing that has happened to generation after generation.
yeah. And I think that's why it's changing on a local level. And that's why we're at a local level, like
Mm-hmm.
really on for so many reasons. I mean, for the planet and the way that she's moving and growing and
Mm-hmm.
being affected by humans, and then
Mm-hmm.
it's the you know it's the psychological aspect of living in our time and
Mm-hmm.
the debt-based monetary system and all the ways in which we've created wars to continue for
Mm-hmm.
certain things to continue for certain individuals and
Mm-hmm.
um, uh, I think this is the moment that humanity unites. I really do believe that this is the time that humanity sees what's happening
Mm-hmm.
and chooses to wake up, stand up, lock arms
Mm-hmm.
in a way that protects each other, um, that unifies us on a level of recognizing that this is bigger. This is bigger than this is bigger than any one monolithic idea
Mm-hmm.
or one monolithic system that
Mm-hmm.
chooses to continue to have itself
Mm-hmm.
uh, propagated in places that don't necessarily want it to be propagated there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very vague, but it's.
But so actually substantial. Like in that is really addressing the fact that like we're alive. Like we are living lives on Earth. Like the actual reality behind that is something that has been lost on us for a long time. And as we move back into that more and more, and that's what I think this kind of like, that hope that this is the moment, that hope that and belief that this is us turning the corner, that I feel like that comes from the place that is connected to just like what it is that's moving behind, like within life, that expresses itself as life. This is going to be a vague connection, but like there's this Zen idea that like that's not a tree over there. It's not a tree. You should not look at that being and think, oh, that's a tree over there. Like, no, that is like its own phenomenon in the cycle of life and existence that is just happening because of a coalescence of just however many infinite moments that are all as infinite as this one. And that is just a raw, unique, living thing over there that has like gone through all of its experiences from like seedling germinating in the soil to like the entity that is now feeling the wind and the sun over there, and has their roots in that soil that's like no other root pattern in no other soil anywhere else, because it's just that over there. And that things that come from that place, they are probably the most substantial things, I think.
I love you.
I love you. We're
Well,
all just
Mr. Alex Beecroft,
mm,
I'd like to continue, but we're already at like an hour. And
sweet.
so I feel like, you know, good place to end.
Yeah.
It's a good place to end. But like I've told other people on the podcast, I'd like to return back
Hmm.
to you and maybe we talk about a different subject because I know there's lots of things twirling around in your brain that are eager to spill out through your lips. So
You're not wrong.
I'm interested in picking your brain a little bit more.
Hmm. Gladly. My gray matter's
Gladly.
available. Although, really, I think the whole human body is the brain. I mean, there's neurons in your heart, there's neurons in your gut, your nerve endings are all in your
Fine.
fingers and your feet. Like, yeah, your spine is just this wild mechanism of like, just like, your whole body is your brain. Cheers. Uh, all right. I love you, Tony. Thank you so much for having me on.
I love you too.
Mwah.
Mwah.
I'll see you when you get
Everybody.
home.
Yeah, I'm coming home. I'm so
Yay.
excited. We'll
Okay.
do more grass stuff, and anybody that wants to get aware of what grass is and wants to learn about anything uh, grass related. Oh, Grand Rapids Autonomous Support System. I don't know if we even ever
You
said
did in the
that.
very beginning. In the
In
very
the
beginning, you opened the support.
okay, well,
Great.
good,
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll put all that in the
Mm.
description below, so you
Yeah.
have those links. And
Yeah.
thank you, Alex.
Thank you,
We love you
Tony.
all.
Love you. Mwah.
Bye bye
Bye.
bye 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 bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.